We are, oh, hold on 1 second, trying to get this recorded for some people who weren't able to join us. All right. Okay. Sorry about that. All right, here we go. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us on today's Small Business Series conversation sponsored by Blue Cross Blue Shield. My name is Kelsey McKaig, and I am part of the Southwest Michigan First team. This series of small business discussions was specifically designed to strengthen and grow small businesses in our community. We hope these virtual meetings will bring together the knowledge of experts as well as foster discussion between community leaders and small business owners, and hopefully focus on topics that are important to you. So before we jump in today, I do want to cover a few Zoom housekeeping items, and I'm sure you are all pros at this time, but if you can please remain muted for the entire call, that would be appreciated. We want to make sure everyone can hear our panelists. And if any questions do arise throughout the presentation for our speakers, please feel free to put them in the chat box. Jessica will be monitoring the chat, and we will do our best to field your questions to our speakers. And finally, I did want to make you aware that we are recording this Zoom call so we can share it out with some participants who weren't able to join us this morning. So we are going to kick it off by starting with Stacy Hamlin of CTS Telecom. We are also joined by Mo Brooks of Mount Zion Baptist Church and Susan Colhane of Nolte Insurance to learn more about what they have been doing to keep their culture strong and their teams and communities engaged. President and CEO of CTS Telecom. Stacy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Good morning, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So to get us started, Stacy, can you tell us about CTS Telecom?
Did you say tell you about CTS Telecom? Sorry, you broke up.
Oh, yeah, about your role and the business that you run there.
Yeah. So I'm the president and CEO. We are a fiber-based telephone internet service provider locally here in Kalamazoo and Battle Creek area and kind of growing out that way. I've been the president and CEO since 2014.
Awesome. So you and your team have been working remote for a while. Can you tell us what has been working well and what some of those pain points have been for you?
So it was really surprisingly easy for us to transition to working remotely. Our IT staff had us all set up at our home offices within days, and we transitioned all of our meetings to Zoom like most everybody else has. We have a morning meeting every day that we always did in person. We transitioned that to Zoom. We still do that today. It's still a great way to see everybody's face in the morning and talk about what's going on for the day and things that are scheduled, and kind of keeps us connected at least first thing in the morning. Yeah, and we also use Teams, Microsoft Teams, so it's really easy just to chat, use the chat function, or even just video call somebody if you have, I have a thought, I want to call somebody, and it's super easy to do that. So that's been nice. But the pain point I would say is that the communication has to be more deliberate, right? You're not having those spontaneous hallway conversations, or if I have a thought, I can't just get up from my desk and walk down the hall and, bug somebody about some thought I had. So that part of it's been a challenge. I also think another challenge is that we're a social culture. We love to have lunch cookouts and cornhole tournaments and that sort of thing. So losing that social piece has been a little hard. But we've try to do some things virtually. We've done some murder mysteries. We've done, we have lunchtime trivia. So there's things that we've tried to do to keep ourselves socially engaged, but it's hard with Zoom because there's Zoom fatigue, right? Not everybody wants to continuously participate that way. So that's been kind of a challenge.
No, I love the murder mystery thing. What have you done to make that interactive? Have you used Zoom, or is it via phone or some other way? It was Zoom.
It's a company that does it, and they were able to do. We broke it up into, I think, 3 or 4 groups of people, and they facilitated all via Zoom. We dressed up in costumes, and it was pretty fun.
Oh, I love that. That is so cool. So you, from my knowledge, are one of the first companies who started hiring and onboarding new team members remotely. Can you tell us more about what that process looked like?
Sure. So we've actually onboarded 5 people, and going to be about to do another one in a couple weeks. We just basically transitioned our onboarding checklist, if you will, and just made it remote. So our HR person, once a candidate is brought on, is given an offer, they can give all the paperwork electronically, all the HR electronically paperwork. We engage with our IT. The equipment's ordered, all the systems, passwords and things are created before the first day. We want to make sure that we get that good first impression so that the very first day that new staff comes on, they have everything they need. So still today, the first day is in person. So they come to the office, they meet up with the HR and the IT and just make sure that they have everything they need for when they go home and set up their home office. And then of course, IT is there to support if there's any troubles. Once that happens, then it's a 2-week onboarding process. And in that is inclusive of different various meetings that are training, Zoom training, you can share screens, it works pretty easily. We have a company history presentation that we do, and then everybody meets with every manager, including me. So we have every opportunity for the new hire to interface with every single person in our leadership team, which I think has been great. And then at the very end, they meet back with the HR and just so the HR can get feedback on how did it go? Is there anything that was missing? Do you feel like you have all the information that you need to, start off on a good start?
I think that's so important. We do that here in our office too, where when we hire somebody on, they meet. Our team's small enough where they can meet with every single person, but I think having the conversation initially to kind of get your bearings has always been really helpful. So that's great to hear you guys are doing it too.
Yeah, I mean, because so we can share, each manager will share who reports to them, kind of what they do, and it helps to give, the new person to understand where they could go if they need something, so they know where their resources are right away.
Can you tell us a little bit about your interview process? I know it's a little different than most, but if you could tell that to the people on the call, that would be awesome.
Sure. We do it as a 3-step process. So once the resumes start to come in, our HR person, scans them, and then if any of them look like they're a good quality candidate, they do a phone interview first. So everybody gets screened that way. If it's somebody seems like they're a good candidate, then it goes to the next level where it's a interview with the manager and maybe some team members on the team, so they can kind of talk to them, and that's obviously done via Zoom. And then if they get past that, then they meet with the executive team and the HR person for the final interview. So we've all had a chance to meet with the individual, get a sense on if it's a good fit. Because our thing is, it's great if you look good on paper, but we really want to make sure that they're the right fit for our culture ultimately. Because you can teach most anything to anybody, but to be a fit is our number one priority.
So has that translated well for the virtual onboarding and interviewing process in terms of that cultural piece, or has that been a little more difficult?
It's you can read people on Zoom. Okay, it's not the same as being in the room together, I don't think. But I feel like the conversations have gone well. Like I said, we brought on 5 people over the past 9 months. It's maybe too early to tell the long-term impact, but I feel like it's gone well. I feel like the people that we brought on are great candidates and they're doing great.
That's awesome to hear. So when you're onboarding a new team member, how do you make sure that not only are you teaching them what they need to know for their role, but also teaching them about the culture? Are there certain things that are like core to what you guys are doing in the culture you have in your office that need to be taught, and how do you make sure that happens?
I think it's hard to necessarily make it a teaching thing. I think when I've talked to some of the new hires, I'm usually the last person they talk to. I kind of ask them, you've talked to all the managers, you've talked to the leadership team, you've talked to different, folks around, maybe who you're working with, that type of thing. Do you get a sense of who we are, or have you gotten a sense of who we are? And the general consensus is, yeah, it's about hearing common language, the same message. We're all saying the same thing. And I think that when you have a new person that sees that right away, that's an easier way to get them to understand this is who we are, because it shines through on our language.
No, I think that's really important. So what have you learned throughout this remote work experience or experiment that you plan to make permanent when we're back to normal?
Sure. Actually, prior to this, we had been contemplating building a new building because we were running out of physical space. We've doubled up offices. We've done everything we can in our current space to maximize the amount of people. So we had been throwing that out there. Well, do we build something new? Now we're like, maybe we don't need to build something new. Maybe we can transition some departments to be completely remote because we can. There's, our IT, we have some technical folks that work just fine at home. Maybe we do some kind of hybrid where some people just come in and they use hoteling space. Salespeople, they don't necessarily need to have permanent space in an office. They can kind of come and go. So we're just experimenting and thinking about what could we do differently when we transition back that maybe would save us some money and efforts to, maybe just combine ourselves physically, but still have the opportunity to have people that can work remotely because it's worked very well. I mean, if you look at our metrics and all the projects and things that we've been doing throughout the year, you would find it hard to believe that we transitioned to this completely remote environment.
Oh, I love that. That's great to hear. I'm so happy for you guys. So finally, is there one piece of advice that you could give everybody on this call in terms of things they can do to either keep their employees engaged, keep their culture strong, or just general working remote practices that you found?
I don't know. I don't know if I have any because it seems like it's so new. I feel like we rode into this with a really strong culture and I think that's helped us keep it going long term. I think, the having video, if we didn't have this technology today, that say this happened 10 years ago, it would be so different. I think this has been a lifesaver for us to be able to continue to work together. I do get some fear that there is some fatigue on, meeting this way. But we're just going to continue to try to do what we can to keep people engaged. Like I said, we do trivia, we do things that we just try to keep people together, but it's challenging. And I hope it's not a long-term thing. I hope that at some point there's the ability to see each other because that we're social beings. And I think that we just need to figure out ways to keep that integrated and however we end up working long-term.
No, I think that's great to hear. And it's exciting to hear the success you've had, not only with adding new team members, but also, you're saying with your metrics and everything like that. So thank you, Stacy, for being with us today and for sharing all of that. And now we will transition things over to Mo Brooks, Director of Family Ministries at Mount Zion Baptist Church. Mo, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. My pleasure.
So can you tell us a little bit about what you do at Mount Zion?
Yes. So I am the family director or director of family ministries at Mount Zion and formerly youth director. And my responsibility is to keep every family engaged and in the forefront of the ministry to make sure that there is an intentional, asserted effort to make sure we are serving families in the Kalamazoo area.
That's awesome. So going from youth director to now family director, what are some of the major parts of your role that have had to change because of the virtual world we're living in now? I'm sure a lot. I'm sure a lot of them.
Yes, yes. The main focus shift has been parents. When the pandemic hit, we couldn't come to church. We couldn't come to the building anymore and meet. So, a lot of times in our society, the way it is set up is that kids are dropped off to the church building, the youth team, go ahead and, give them the word, encourage them, spend time with them. Kids are dropped off at school. The teacher teaches them all these lessons. Kids are dropped off at the baseball field, the football field, the cheerleading team, the coaches then spend times with them. And then the parents, they get a little time with them to do whatever, right? So our focus has shifted to parents so we can make sure parents have all the tools and the equipment they need to be the teacher, to be the coach, to be the mentor, to be all those things because the family time has increased during the pandemic.
So what are some of those tools that you've been trying to instill in the parents to help make the teaching and the transition easier for them?
Right. So some of them are, I call them handles. So we don't want to exactly tell parents what to do, right? Like that could be offensive and that's a sensitive area as it relates to children. But we definitely want to just kind of give them guidance like, hey, eat dinner together and turn off the TV, small things like that, pray together on a consistent basis. We try to help parents with tone. We know things can get heated, especially when you spend a lot of time with individuals in a house, right? Tempers can flare. So, hey, watch your tone, and just little reminders and tips. And it's okay to struggle. It's okay to tell somebody, hey, I am struggling with my teenage daughter. She is driving me up the wall this week, right? Those type of things are okay to communicate with each other as a community. And that makes life a lot easier, instead of feeling like pressure, like I have to be the perfect parent and have all the answers in this moment.
No, I think that I can only imagine. I do not have children myself, but to have, everybody in the house all the time, I'm sure can add a lot of stress to families.
Most definitely.
So can you tell us how many people are a part of your congregation and talk about that initial outreach strategy that you had when the pandemic was taking off?
Yes, so around, I would say 700 to 800 consistently, coming to our services on Sunday. And initially, when the pandemic happened, our initial strategy was to communicate to every single person, who attends our congregation, not only consistently, but if your name was on a roll, and we have a roll of about probably over 3,000, so a few thousand. You got the roll, and then you got the people who actually show up. But we try to call every single person to check on them, to see what they needed. Did they need a laptop or a computer? Whatever it is, we try to reach out to every single person and keep them connected and make sure that they didn't have any basic needs as far as food. Toilet paper was, running low, and just things like that, to making sure that people were okay.
And what was the response to that outreach? Because I feel like if you're having consistently 700 to 800 people, right, who are engaged, and then you have a list of 2 to 3,000, are there more people now showing up and participating who, you reached out to initially who you hadn't heard from in a while?
I believe so. Because we're virtually, it's hard to like see those faces. On a consistent basis, like, hey, we haven't seen you in a while. But based off of what we look at virtually, I really believe so. And I think, that initial contact and reaching out to people really showed that we do care. And I think it really helped people stay connected. And yeah.
Which is what it's all about, right? It's connecting people and making sure they feel that energy of being around one another, even if it's virtual.
Yeah.
So typically in the work that you do, most people come together, one day a week for a large gathering where they're able to connect with one another easily, which of course cannot happen right now. Can you
Yeah.
tell us about how you and your team have changed the way you structure your services and engagements to make sure that you're getting feedback from the community, engaging with the community, and having the conversations that are needed to have, which you might have had during that, one day a week service?
Most definitely. I'm very excited about what we're doing. We have our adult classes. We have increased the amount of classes we have to 19 every day throughout the week, except for Wednesdays, I believe. So we have 19 classes tailor made, for people to help them out through the pandemic. The series is called Producing Through the Pandemic. And these are small groups getting together, talking about life, sharing their struggles, sharing what they're going through, laughing, having a good time, and staying connected throughout the week. And some of those relationships that are built over the phone conversations and Zoom meetups on a personal level, and really connecting people. And then for our families, we meet Sunday virtually. I oversee ages 1 all the way through 18, and parents, of course. And we have, babies on Zoom and kids on Zoom and parents on Zoom, and just having a good time, learning together, growing together, and just being there for one another. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been a blast. And yeah, I just can't wait till Sunday, every Sunday, to do it again.
I love that. So for the classes that you're hosting throughout the week, are those just small group discussions on Zoom? Do you do breakouts? What do those look like?
Yep, whoever is that facilitator, they will decide that. For the youth, we do breakout rooms for age specific, lessons and activities. So, a 10th grader would be bored with first grader thing. So we break out with that. For the adults, they might stay together in that small group, or they might have smaller breakout sessions within the group. So that's how we kind of do that.
I like that. So if and when we're able to gather again in person, do you plan on keeping these virtual activities that you've, kind of started to establish, or will you try to get things back to how they used to be?
Absolutely, we will keep most of things, as long as it's meeting the needs of our people, because we really do want to serve people. That's our heart. But we will definitely keep it. The pandemic really exposed our busyness and how we're running back and forth, and not spending time with family, that quality time. So we want to maintain. We want to like kind of cut the fat, like what is really essential, what is needed, and outside of that, let's cut it and really give people time to spend time with their families, enjoy community, enjoy life. So we've really slowed down since March, and we intend to keep it that way.
That's awesome. So for your internal team, you have a team of 12 at Mount Zion. What have you guys been doing to keep yourselves engaged for that smaller team and not just the community you serve?
We meet weekly. Well, when the pandemic hit in March, we were meeting almost like every other day. It seemed like the communication really went up, and to this day we really have to trust each other and rely on each other to get things done. So our communication has went up, and we always been a tight-knit group, and we just got tighter through this. So at any time someone can call us to be like, hey, we need this, or can you do that, and it's no problem. And yeah, just the communication, it's so huge.
Is it one of those things where, it's a daily touch base with your team via Zoom, or is it something where you guys have gotten into a rhythm and know each other well enough that it just kind of works? Is there strategy involved, or is it just fate or luck of the draw?
No, it's twofold. So we have one big meeting on Thursdays, and then we have individual meetings with key. So if I'm working with somebody closely, I will meet with them once a week. So I probably meet with 2 or 3 people once a week, because our areas really cross. I meet with my direct lead on Fridays. Actually, today at 10:25 we meet, and we just have a phone call conversation, and we just talk about things and make sure we're on the same page. So we have one big meeting, and then out of all 12 of us, we're meeting with key individuals, whether they're on staff or not, because we have a great volunteer base who just love to serve people. And we're meeting with those individuals to make sure that we are accomplishing our mission.
So I guess that's a question I hadn't thought of before. Is you're working with volunteers. I don't know if anyone on the call deals with volunteers and the work they're doing. How has that been working with them virtually?
It's been great. I think our volunteers, really miss coming to the building and miss serving. So they are eager and ready to do something. Those who feel safe to do things. I mean, we've thrown a couple community events, a back to school giveaway. We've done candy giveaway on Halloween. We've done fruit giveaway, produce giveaway this fall. So volunteers are just like, hey, I want to serve, I want to pitch in, I want to help. We just upgraded our media equipment, so we need more volunteers to run the cameras and the lights and the soundboard. And people are just really plugged in. And I think that has to do with our initial contact in March and keeping in touch and plugged in with people, keeping people connected.
So this is a question we did not prepare for, so hopefully I'm not
Yes.
throwing a curveball at you, but how do you handle, or how have you handled difficult conversations virtually, whether it's with a volunteer, a team member, anybody that you're working with? How do you handle those compared to having that face-to-face, in-person conversation?
Well, I think you have to handle it as if you are face to face, and you just have to be honest, because we're on a mission, we have a goal, and I think we have to be tactical and honest, and we have to know triggers for other people as well. So I've really been huge on studying personalities. I've been certified as an extreme execution coach, under Eric Thomas, and we use the DISC. And knowing those different personalities and knowing what sets somebody off really helps with difficult conversations, right? But at the end of the day, you got to have them. You can't run from them, and you can't worry about the possible blow up. Um, you just got to have the conversation. And
Right.
9 times out of 10, when you're honest with people, it works out.
Yeah, no, that would be that's an interesting take. And I think having the background and some of the, like you said, DISC and learning about personalities and knowing about personalities can only benefit those conversations.
Yeah.
So,
And knowing people.
go ahead.
And knowing people, like,
Yes.
because we have relationships with people, it's easier to have those difficult conversations, opposed to not knowing how someone will react.
For sure. No, totally agree. So are you and your team actively trying to bring new families into your community? And if so, how are you executing that during this time?
Yes, during social media, we actually have quite a few new families who is joining our church from near and far virtually. And we had one mother who was on her daughter's 3, and she was on our tot spot call on Sunday. And she said, I really appreciate this because my daughter is the only child, and it's just good for her to interact with other children, to talk, to learn, to watch the videos, to engage. And even though it was like 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes at the longest, on Sunday, she is enjoying it and I'm enjoying it. So thank you for the opportunity. So yes, we have new families engaged, and the way we do it, we talk about what we're doing, even on this call, when we get an opportunity to talk about what we're doing, because we believe what we're doing is really helping families and helping individuals. We talk about it and we say, hey, just try it out. Just jump on a call, see how you like it, and go from there. If you don't like it, that's great. If you love it, we love to have you back.
I think that's one of those things where I've learned more about what's going on in this community. I feel like during this time, because I'm on calls with people I wouldn't have been on calls with before. So I think that's a great strategy for pushing out the work that you're doing, whether it's sales or in your case, engaging communities. And so I think that's just sharing it out, right? As simple as that is telling people what you're doing. So we have one final question for you, Mo. If you could give one piece of advice to people on this call, what would it be?
I would say, I'm a relational guy, so I'm all about relationships. So I would say build those relationships, call people, check up on people, send people text messages, send people letters. Like if you're over a company or a business, send out everybody all the addresses, send out letters, personalized to them. Really communicate with people and individuals, let them know what you are doing, because I heard a saying like this: when you have someone, when you're stuck on the side of the road and you're in the car and you're just waiting on a tow truck or something, all the cars are passing by. But if you get out and start pushing, and if you get out and start working on it, somebody is likely to stop and help you out. So I would say, get out the car, push it, drag it, call people, text people, let them know what you're doing, get on social media, use the tool of social media, right? And increase the awareness.
I love that. Thank you, Mo. You and your team are doing such great work engaging your community during this crazy time, and I'm sure they are all grateful for a chance to be able to connect with one another and with your team. So thank you again for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
So last, but certainly not least, we have Susan Colhane, Sales and Development Manager at Nolte Insurance. Susan, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been great to listen to Stacy and Mo. And Mo, I want to get on your text list. You're going to inspire me. I can just tell.
I love that. Susan, can you share with us what you do as the Sales and Development Manager at Nolte Insurance?
I absolutely can. So my main role here at the agency is I manage our employee benefits division here at Nolte. So we do HR and benefit consulting for our clients, and our biggest role that we feel is to serve our community is in education, because benefits can be confusing. And HR, sometimes our clients do not have an HR team. They might be too small. So we have a couple people on our staff that have many years of HR experience, and so we can help them with those day-to-day questions that they might have. I also am a member of the management team here, and so there's 4 of us, and in dealing with a small business like all of you, I wear a couple different hats, so I manage the HR for our team here at Nolte too.
Awesome, thank you for sharing. So you work to meet the needs of external clients, but also to make sure your internal team is taken care of. Can you talk about what you're doing internally for employee engagement? I know a lot is going on at your office.
There is. You know, it was one of those things that when COVID hit, we pretty much had everybody working in the office, and then COVID hit all of us, and you had to look at like, okay, what can we do? And literally within 48 hours, we had everybody at home. So that was something that we were very proud of ourselves for handling, and our team handled that very well too. And so we want to make sure our big thing is maintaining that culture. And I know Stacy talked about that as well, is how can we maintain that culture? So we have and always have had teams of employees. And so one of the things that we knew as managers was we can't do this by ourselves. We need to get the input of our teams. And so we have a culture club, and their main responsibility is to maintain our culture. That is what their main responsibility is. So we engaged them right away. We have a fun team, we have a wellness team, and we have a community service team. So we wanted to make sure that all of those teams were engaging with each other and still providing those types of services to everybody else that we had here. So we did make sure that we had our departments all maintained bi-weekly meetings through Zoom. We had some people that were really struggling with technology, and they didn't even know, none of us really knew what Zoom was. We were using Microsoft Teams pretty successfully, but Zoom was kind of our new thing. And so to make people feel comfortable and make sure that they had, we didn't want them just to do it by voice. We wanted to actually see them. So we actually purchased, the economy got a big boost in selling laptops with video cameras, because we wanted to maintain that as well. And also just making sure that they had everything that they needed at home to have a home office. We are considered an essential employer, as a lot of you might be considered an essential employer, but we decided we wanted everybody to be at home. So that was a big adjustment, but we did it. Also just wanted to make sure that we are maintaining that conversation. Stacy talked about that, is that we are still having those conversations, because we, like CTS, are very social. We love each other. We're used to stopping in and talking about kids and pets and all those types of things. So what we did in my department that worked really well is we had, instead of me being in charge, because I don't want to be in charge of my department meeting every couple weeks, they want to hear somebody else. So we said that you had to nominate the next cheerleader or leader of our team meeting. And so they then, a couple days before our department meeting, would send out a question. And it could be a personal question, it could be a work question, maybe what was your favorite trip that you took as a family, or what are you doing as a family for COVID? And so at the end of every meeting, we would end our meeting on a high note. But I'll tell you, not all the time was it high. There's some real personal growth, I think, in there. There were tears shed, but it was just an opportunity to share ideas and thoughts and have some fun with each other and get to know each other a little bit more. So
That's great. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Culture Club and the role that plays in your business?
Yes, absolutely. They used to be called our Champion Task Force, and people were like, I don't really know what that means. So we changed it to the Culture Club, because truly that is their role, is to maintain our culture, help us as leaders maintain our culture. So we said, let's just call it what it is. And so these people, some of them are handpicked, some of them, we just said, we just asked who might be interested. And so we had a good selection across our 3 departments, because we wanted to make sure it wasn't just one department taking over. And we have 3, we have commercial lines, we have personal lines, and then we also have employee benefits. So we have two people, at least two people from each department. And then we have an admin team. We didn't want them to feel left out because they're not necessarily part of our everyday meetings. And so we have a marketing person, we have our director of finance, our IT person. So they always kind of felt like they were on their own little island. So we wanted to make sure they felt part of this too. So the Culture Club, one of their new initiatives is onboarding new employees, because in the olden days, 8-9 months ago, the people would come in, they could meet everybody, we'd take them out to lunch and we do all those types of things. We met with them for 2 hours with different team members, but now what do? You don't have people in the office anymore. So our Culture Club is actually coming up, I don't have to do it as the HR person, they're creating the onboarding for me and what that experience will be for our employees. We do monthly agency meetings. We just had one this morning, and we were actually just talking about that in the agency because we have 2 new employees, and they began after COVID hit, and how awkward would that be? And so this Culture Club is responsible for that and other types of things that are happening throughout the agency.
That's so cool. I think that's something can be so easily duplicated in other businesses.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
What does your fun group, I don't know are they called the Fun Club or the,
again, we're not very creative. They just are responsible for having fun at work. So the fun team, I tell you, it's been a little bit challenging for that because usually we would do things outside. We've done scavenger hunts throughout the greater Southwest Michigan area with our clients. Would get them involved. And so it's a little bit different now, not being able to do those types of things. So one thing we did do, which was our first agency event outside, we did a tailgate. Notre Dame and Florida State played a few weeks ago. And so we actually did a social distance tailgate outside. So, and a lot of people just liked being in the same area together. I mean, they were very, very thankful for that. Instead of Secret Santa, where we drop gifts off to each other's offices, we are going to do a virtual Secret Santa this year. And so that is going to be different. We were just talking about our kids' Christmas party that we always have, which is such a great event for our kids. And so this year, I believe Santa Claus is going to be traveling to the children's home. And so doing a drive-by, I think we're going to be doing that. But really what hit us this year is this is our 75th anniversary. And we had a huge event happen or were planned up at Boyne Mountain for our entire team and their family members. And I tell you, that's been a real struggle for us because this is such a huge milestone year for Nolte Insurance. And we had all these events happen, or planned, I should say, and then we had to cancel them. So, just dealing with that, and people are like, well, why are we canceling it? We should still do it. It's our 75th year, but we can't do it. So kind of coming up with different ideas that can engage people is what we try to do.
I know this year has taken an emotional toll on all of us.
Yes,
so
yes.
Hopefully you will be able to celebrate next year. I know that's not on the 75th year, but hopefully you'll be able to do that.
It is what it is.
So have you, when you're doing all these things, whether it's the Culture Club or the Fun Team or anything else that's going on in your organization, do you ask for feedback from your team, and what has that looked like?
Yes, we have continually asked for feedback because, we're all new at this. We did not go to COVID training, any pandemic training in our entire lives. There's nothing out there. So, it was like, boy, what can we do? How can we do this correctly? Are we doing things correctly? The beauty of my job is I have clients all over West Michigan and across the United States. And so I can hear what they're doing. What's working for you? So we've been able to engage a lot of that, which has been very helpful. But we've done surveys. Our Culture Club has created surveys for us. We did them very easily through SurveyMonkey. We've done those, I think we've done 2 already, probably plan on doing another one here, just to really make sure that our team members are getting that communication that they need. Do they have any fears? Are they fearful for their jobs? I think that was a real big thing for a lot of us at the beginning of this is, we had many clients that were laying or furloughing their team members off. And we got thinking, we're like, wait a minute, does our team feel that way? Are they worried about that? So we created questions and just had them answer. They could put their name down if they want, but most people did it confidentially. And so our Culture Club reported back to the management team to make sure that we were communicating and doing what we needed to do. And I think the other thing that we learned too is to be honest and transparent. That was a real big thing for us. You know, we as managers are sometimes looked upon like we know all the answers and we're going to make everything right and, you know, la la la. Well, we didn't know what the heck we were doing either, you know, so this was new for us too. And I think by us just showing that as a management team, like, listen, we're going to get through this. We will get through it, but we need your input. We need to hear what you're feeling and let us help you with that. We've also promoted our EAP, our Employee Assistance Program, to make sure that employees and their families know that it's there. And we represent a lot of employee assistance programs in Michigan. And I tell you what, the visits are skyrocketing and they have instituted telehealth, which is so important. We've had a few people here and their kids are doing telehealth through the EAP program. So just making them aware that they're not alone and that there's help out there.
So how do you help your external clients whose employee engagement strategies may not be as robust, strengthen those and strengthen their culture?
You know, that has been, it's been a wonderful challenge. I'll tell you, these types of things, it's something new and I get excited about, okay, what can we do differently? How can we help? How can we make sure that their anxiety levels are, you know, not as high as they really need to be? And so the great thing is we have a lot of resources and we were able to put those resources into play quite easily. We created a website for our clients on COVID. We attended many legal seminars and I really appreciate that the law firms in the areas were doing those for free. So we could gather that information. We created a COVID preparedness and response plan that we were able to help our clients with. Because like I said earlier, a lot of owners, they're just like, I just want to make widgets all day long. I got to get the widgets out the door. You know, that's what I'm concerned about. I can't even think of a preparedness plan for COVID-19. I don't even know what that means. What does the emergency paid sick leave mean? How does that affect me as an employer, or does it even affect me? So I think we took a big thing and we tried to really kind of narrow it down and make it usable for the average employer. And so we were really proud to be able to help that. I was just doing some looking at reports, and I think we answered well over 2,000 COVID calls and questions in a short period of time. But hoping to just try to say, you're not in this by yourself. We're learning this together. We don't know the answers. We'll help you go to places that might get the answers.
So it seems as though the work you're doing is very similar to Mo's in terms of it relies heavily on connection, right? With your external clients, making sure they trust you and you know, have that connection virtually. What are some ways that you've discovered that work well when connecting with people virtually?
Well, that's still a great question. Have a little bit of comic relief in there. I can't tell you how many times screens froze up and had really funny looking people on screens. You know, just be real. Again, we're not perfect, but we ended up having to switch. We always have done seminars for our clients and our prospects, and so we love to have them in person. And quite honestly, that's how we've grown our business, is people become, you know, they trust us. They get to know us through those types of seminars. So we had to switch to virtual seminars, which I was never a huge fan of. I was kind of stuck in my paradigm, like, no, we have to have these in person. And so it made me have to change. And so we ended up doing what was called our Nolte Summer 6-Pack series. And we wanted to bring in the summer and try to make it as happy as possible, but really brought in subject matter experts. So our seminars, we want people to enjoy and learn what they need to learn and make it quick, you know, and so we pared them down. Some of them were only a half hour, 45 minutes. So we got to the facts of what people needed at that point in their lives during this. What do I do with my employees? How do I handle this if I have a positive COVID? You know, do I need to call the health department? You know, all those kind of things we brought attorneys in, other subject matter experts that truly helped them with what they needed at that point in time. So.
That's great. So transitioning off of that, what do you see for the future of remote work, being in the HR world, and what should people be doing now to prepare for the potential change in trends?
Oh
And
my
maybe that's too
gracious.
big of a question, but
If I had the answer to that, I'd be a very wealthy person, I think. But again, and Stacy said this too, I believe, but it has changed us forever. I think it's changed all of us on this call forever, and in some ways, probably in good ways. It made us look, and I think Mo said this, that we learned how busy we were, but we all had to pause and take a breath and reconnect. My adult children came home and lived with me. I never thought my adult children would live with me ever again. And all of a sudden there's 5 of us under the same household with my 85-year-old mother. So I think it's going to change us, hopefully in good ways. I do think remote work is here to stay. We have actually started talking about here at our agency, we have a few people now, I would say about 25 to 30% of our staff who really want to be in the office. They can't work well at home. They have bad internet connections. They need the connectivity with their teammates. And so we've already started talking about, well, because right now we're kind of spread out in our big building. How can we bring those people closer together, move their offices closer together so they have that connectivity where they don't have to walk down a few hallways to get to somebody else who might be in this big building? So really we're looking at that. What can we do different?
so what have you done? And you said you have adult children, so this may not apply to you as much, but what have you done to support your employees who have school-age children, who now, you have the parents at home, similar to what Mo was referencing, right? You have parents and kids together all the time. Parents still have to work. Kids have to do school. What are you doing to support that with your employees?
Whatever we can, really, truly, whatever we can. That has been, some parents are really enjoying it. They're enjoying this time with their kids. They've become excellent teachers as well, which never would have been my forte. I would have been way too impatient. But I think the big thing is to making sure they have the tools, what they need at home, dual monitors, 3 monitors, is all the technology there for them to do the job. And if they can be flexible, if they can take a couple hours off during the day to concentrate on that child's schoolwork, that's okay for some of the positions. If you don't have a direct contact with our clients throughout the day and you can do that, then just work in the evening to make up for it, or get up early before we open. So we've tried to become a very, very flexible remote work environment for those people. We had someone bring their child in. Her husband is a teacher at Portage Schools and at Loy Norrix, and I guess they all went virtual. So he was teaching his high school students from home. Her daughter needed the internet. Their internet couldn't handle having 2 people on Zoom calls. So she brought her daughter into the office and put her in one of our offices, and she did her schoolwork there. So, and then really also what's been a great fun for me is learning what our clients are doing. We have one of our clients who has the 3rd floor of their offices. You can bring your children in, and they've hired tutors to help their kids. And it's so exciting to see how everybody's thinking outside the box.
That's great. I think that's so cool that people and businesses have been able to shift to support the full family, which is really interesting to see how that will, stay or change as time goes on.
Absolutely.
So one final question for you, Susan. After logging off this call, what's one piece of advice that every participant can take with them to engage their teams or just strengthen their culture?
I think to ask for help and be transparent, just have open conversations with your employees. Don't just always be in that manager role, like that best and you have all the answers when you don't. Have those open, honest, transparent conversations with your team members, ask their advice, ask for their opinions, and just be open to hearing different ideas and different thoughts would be my advice.
I love that. Thank you, Susan, for joining us this morning and for sharing all your insight.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
And thank you again to all of our speakers for sharing such wonderful information this morning. I know I learned a lot, and I hope you all have as well. I want to thank you for spending your time with us, and we hope you found this call to be beneficial. As we look towards 2021, we want to make sure that these sessions and others like it are fulfilling your business needs and are covering topics that are important to you. So in the next week or so, you will all see a survey come to your inbox. We'll be asking for you to share your thoughts on what you liked about these sessions and any suggestions you have for the future of our small business programming. So keep an eye out for that. And before we go our separate ways this morning, I did want to share a few things with everyone. If your business received a PPP loan or payroll protection program loan for $50,000 or less, you may be eligible to apply for a loan forgiveness program. In the chat box, you will find the application form for the loan forgiveness program, as well as the frequently asked questions sheet. If you do have any questions regarding this process or need more information, please reach out to your bank directly. And finally, I wanted to share more information about Huntington's new local Lyft business program. So as a part of their recently announced community plan, they are committing $25 million to support women, veteran, and racially and ethnically diverse businesses in accessing capital that they need to start or grow their business. So some of the features of this program are access to capital at a low cost to business, lower credit score requirements, free financial education tools, and much more. And the link for that program has been posted in the chat box as well. Our next small business series call, the last one of the year, will take place on Friday, December 11th, where we will be joined by the Kalamazoo County Health Department leadership team, who will be discussing the current changes to their COVID-19 public health guidelines and talk about best practices, the newest protocols and safety guidelines that are needed during the holiday season. I'll be sending out an invite to everyone on the call later today. So my contact information has been shared in the chat box, so please reach out if you have any questions at all. Thank you again to Blue Cross Blue Shield for sponsoring this series, and thank you all for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you on future calls and have a wonderful weekend. Thank you all.
Thank you.